Hi, everybody. You're listening to the Oneness Junkie podcast, hosted by me, Lydia Smith, a self-proclaimed Oneness Junkie. Oneness Junkie is a place to be inspired, encouraged, and supported. Learn from the individuals who are working to make the world a better place. Let's meet today's guest. Hi, everyone. It's Lydia with the Oneness Junkie podcast and YouTube channel. And today I'm excited to introduce you to our next guest. I'm sitting here with Dr. Dream. Hi, Dr. Dream.
Hi, Lydia. How are you?
I'm doing good. Tell us where you said you were today.
Well, today we're in Lawrence, Kansas. With us on the Tour of Love, you never know where we're going to show up. But I've got my daughter and son-in-law and my new grandson here. So this is always a stopping off place for us.
That's awesome. Yeah. And when I met you, you were coming through Houston, Texas. And we had a great time. I met Dr. Dream when he was doing a event, the Tour of Love, and he offers sound healing events. We're going to talk about that, help people understand what it is that happens at one of these events. So let's just dive right in. But before we get started with the events, let me allow you to introduce yourself, maybe a little bit of background to have people understand like what brought you up to the point where you are touring the country, doing the Tour of Love for everyone.
Excellent. Well, I am Dr. Dream. And in a nutshell, I'm here to be a beacon of love. It shows up right now as me being a sound healing practitioner. For years, I was a holistic healing practitioner, and now it's very focused on sound healing. I started the Tour of Love in January of 2010, and last week in Hot Springs, Arkansas, I facilitated my 793rd group energetic experience. And so I love keeping track of the numbers because it reminds me that I'm doing exactly what I'm here to be doing.
I love it. And I love that we have you today on the Oneness Junkie podcast. So let's kind of start from the basics instead of people like us assuming people know what sound healing is. I would like for you to go back a little bit further because you said you used to be another type of practitioner. And I have a feeling your journey has been getting you to the point where frequency is a powerful healing modality, right? And so I just want you to kind of give everybody that trail that you where you saw what you saw and then how you're doing what you're doing today.
So I guess I stepped into my own personal healing practice on myself in my mid-20s or so, and was learning all about different modalities, healing modalities, and finding out what was working on my own body and my own mind, and what made sense. And I worked a lot with frequencies, with Rife frequency devices. And this is based on the work of Royal Rife and his frequencies that assisted people in healing themselves of cancers and all sorts of things. And I was really fascinated with that work. And I once I went through my own healing process, my thought was, if it worked on me, oh my gosh, it'll work on anybody. And so I started working on people individually, and I love that. I'm a Reiki master and trained in all sorts of other modalities. But what I've always really been drawn to is the group energetic, to be able to bring a healing process or a healing experience to groups of people. And so in January of 2010, I started the Tour of Love, and it started with me getting together 10 or 15 people, all holding hands for 2 hours, and 4 of them would be holding the noble gas-filled wands of the Rife frequency device. And my mentor with Right Frequencies in Sedona, Arizona, Judy Irwin, would intuit frequencies for us to use that were unusual right frequencies, things like peace unfolding from within, or a series of frequencies adding up to the frequency of unconditional love. And at that time, I had one Himalayan healing bowl, one crystal bowl, a set of tuning forks, a smudge stick, and a hand drum. And I would take people through a healing experience while they were having the right frequencies, pulsing through them. And then a couple of years later, I got connected with a family in Nepal that could supply us as many Himalayan healing bowls as we could ever want. And I thought, well, it's hard to get people's attention. And this is what I'm going to be doing now. So I ordered 333 bowls, and I started doing a 333 bowl Himalayan healing bowl experience all around the country. Now, I also did 222, 111, 55, and 33. So I really do have this thing with numbers. And it was great. And I would have people sign up to be volunteers, and I would call them angels. And it was Dr. Dream and his band of angels. And 333 bowls. Most people have never seen that many bowls, let alone having been able to hear them all played at once. And we would have 24 to 85 volunteers to take us through the big experience. And, the whole process is all based on the fact that we're all energy. Everything is energy. And as such, we can be affected in a positive way with the healing bowls and tuning forks and gongs and things like that. And in a big sense, I mean, we used to get in Houston, we would get 450 people in that main sanctuary there at Unity. And we were at Unity centers all over the country. Our first one we sold out was Unity on the Bay in Miami, 500 people, and they were turning people away at the door, which for a sound healing practitioner is kind of unheard of, to be able to draw that many people. But it was incredible and truly amazing pinnacle experiences for us to have. And then in 2020, of course, the COVID reset and everything. And then in September of 2020, I had back-to-back strokes. And it was a wake-up call. I believe anything that shows up in our physical body has been in our emotional body, and we didn't pay attention to it. And it's like, all right, I'm going to stop you in your tracks. And for me, it involved unprocessed grief, guilt, and regret about my 39-year-old brother who passed away earlier in 2020 slipped into a diabetic coma, and really probably not processing the identity crisis when the COVID reset happened. And Stephanie and I went from 50 to 70 events a year to nothing on the horizon, and what's the new normal. And I think it all sort of built up in my energetic field, and I had these strokes. During that time, was in the hospital 11 days. Dr. Sandra Rose Michael, who is the inventor of the EE system, which is the energy enhancement system. It's based on scalar technologies. It's there behind you.
It's in my picture behind me.
I love it. She said, we've spoken at some of the same conferences. We've never met. I follow you. Get to Las Vegas. I've got a technology that has been proven successful for people that have had strokes. And I got down to Las Vegas, and I was in a wheelchair and barely able to use a walker. And after 2 hours, I was able to walk unassisted.
Wow.
So the tour is different now. We started the tour. We took 3 years off for my complete healing process. And we started the tour again this last fall. And now this year we're going to do we're close to 100 events. And most of them are at EE system centers all over the country. There's been 700 of them all over the world, 700 in 57 countries all around the world. And
they're growing fast.
Yes, and an incredible healing energetic for people.
Do you know anything about it that you could tell our audience? Because I've been reading about it or watching the videos from like Tony Robbins. What do you know that you can tell us?
So I'm kind of the proof is in the pudding guy, and I went from not being very mobile to being able to walk after 2 hours. The short, easy layperson's description for me is that our bodies are made to naturally heal. What the EE system does is it recharges our cells back up to their peak level, so our bodies can do what they're made to do naturally, which is heal themselves. I believe there's also an emotional component to the healing, addressing why things show up in our field, and I believe that creates a faster healing. I believe I was poised to go through a very quick process from the strokes because of the way I was addressing it in my different bodies, physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental bodies.
Yeah.
But there's amazing, miraculous stories like mine that are happening every day in these EE system centers all over the world. And it's truly, like, it's where we're headed with technology and healing.
Yeah, let me share my experience. I saw them at your place first. When did you come here? In January? When were you here? Do you remember? Or April, something like that?
Yeah, it wasn't January, February. I think it was March or April.
Okay. So I saw them at your place before I ever experienced them. And then they popped up in a friend of mine who does gongs here in town. His name is, you might know him. His name is Harry Be Happy.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely. Him? He's purchased bowls from us. I love Harry.
Yeah, that's awesome. So he does gongs at the Path of Tea. It's a small event. There's only like room for 30 people, and I go once a month. He does it and so he started doing gongs at the EE systems where the centers. There's one on Highway 6. I don't know if you came out here and saw it, but there's a center out here. And I went to that, and you literally get to like lay down or be in a recliner or sit in a zero gravity chair, and he actually goes around with the gongs while you're in. See, these monitors by my head are representative of the EE system, the scalar technology that's happening. And just to back it up a little bit, because my audience isn't necessarily super versed in all of this, I want to just say that we're talking about things like the chakra system, and from the cellular level, our cells are a electromagnetic conductor of energy. And so one way I always use this as a reference is that when you die in the emergency room, they put those electrical paddles together and they shock you back into life. And that's because we need that electricity in our systems for our cells to communicate and function. And all of the sound, the frequency, using gongs or using bowls or anything that creates a reaction, it's like your body is a bottle of water, and when you put some kind of a force onto the body, like energy or sound, it causes the cells in the body of water, 75%, 65% water, to have an experience. And so I personally had a spontaneous healing from going to a sound event with gongs. And that was, I had like a rotator cuff, year and a half long issue where I was doing a handstand in a pool and I got dislocated, but I never went and had it fixed because I believe that the body heals itself. And so when I went to the gongs, I felt something in my shoulder, and this was a year and a half. This was in 2020 when I injured it, but the gongs were in 2021. and I felt some tingling in that area. And I was like, oh, I forgot I had a shoulder injury. And my shoulder injury was that I couldn't raise my arm past here. And so the next day after I had that gong event that I went to, my arm was able to raise it all the way up to my ear again. And so I am sold on the idea of sound healing, healing the body and moving energy in all the right places. And that's why I wanted to have you on the podcast so we could just educate people who don't realize that frequency and sound and can support the body to heal itself, right?
I mean, and that's really what it's about. And as we open ourselves up to this more and more, stories like yours, stories like mine, I mean, it's real and it's happening, and it's just all, owning the fact that we are energetic beings, and that energy affects energy, and we can focus our attention on our intention to create whatever it is we truly want in our lives. And that's our experience that we facilitate at these centers. And we're coming back to Houston in January this next year, January 25th. It's all about empowering people and reminding us what is truly available. And there's lots of tools. There's the healing bowls, the gongs, the tuning forks, the EE system, and everything. But the greatest tool that we all have available to us is right here and right here in our hearts. So it's the mind heart connection, and creating our realities, knowing that we can create whatever it is we truly would like to in our lives. The reality is not happening outside of us, it's happening inside of us, and then we're experiencing the outer version of it here.
Well, and I just want to mention that some people are like, well, I don't have a disease that I know of or some kind of a thing I need to heal. Should I still go to an event like this? The answer is absolutely, because even if you're in perfect condition, you want to take your perfect condition to the next level, you can through sound healing, in my opinion, because it's okay that you're perfect already, go even beyond, right?
And a step further in that direction is, I'm not sure any of us are in perfect health with everything that's going on. I did an interview earlier this week with Dane Wigington of geoengineeringwatch.org. What's been sprayed in our skies affecting our weather. It's we all have energies, and then we're humans. I mean, we didn't come here to be perfect angels. We came here to work on our stuff, and some of it is emotional, some of it is physical, some of it's mental, some of it's spiritual, but we have a piece in all of it. And so just opening up to going to an experience like Harry's experience in Houston, or one of our experiences on the Tour of Love, and just being open to see where the energy takes you and what it opens up. We have boxes of Kleenex at all of our experiences, and people are like, oh, what are those there for? And it's like, well, just wait and see. And you just, the first time that someone played a gong on me, I was MC at a healing center that I was affiliated with in Southern California. And I introduced this gong master, and she was amazing. And I sat down then in the audience on the floor with everyone, and she came around with a gong, and she's striking, and she came over to me, and I started choking and crying, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And I took her aside afterwards, and I said, I want to hire you to teach me how to do kind of what you just did to me to other people, and it's just, you never know what's, like I say, things that show up in our physical body have been hanging out in our emotional body for some time. And so just to be on a proactive journey of, I do feel good and I do feel balanced, but sitting in the EE System Center, it's like, my cell phone, is great, but it needs to be plugged in each night or every couple of nights to recharge itself and bring itself back up to that level. And I believe our bodies and the rest of what makes us up are that same way.
Yeah. And I've been doing a lot of, I bought a Gaia.com subscription, and I've been learning a little bit about sound healing based on, history and things they talked about the shaman resonance of the earth, that there's a pulse and a frequency of the earth, and our bodies kind of pulse and match with that, and learning about like getting around horses, and your heart can match up to the frequency of the horses. They have a slower heartbeat, and so I've really been paying a lot of attention to that for my own life, and putting energy into getting myself in situations where I get to experience what focusing on that, like what you're doing, is doing to me. And if you have like ADHD, or if you have anxiety, or if you're just kind of worried and hyped up, I guarantee you that if you get into these situations with sound healing, your body will just relax like it has not relaxed probably in a long time. And so I just want to like help people understand like what are some of the things that it can help them with, because we live with these things. We go, oh, I've got ADHD, it's just like everybody has it, right? Well, you don't have to have it. You can calm your nervous system down and operate in a more relaxed, calm manner. And so I just want to make sure people know that there are lots of benefits to sound and frequency healing.
And we live in a stressful world. I mean, it's the 9 to 5 grind for many people. It's then all the bills and the pressures, and to be a good partner, to be a good parent, to be a good whatever your role is in this world, and it puts a lot of pressure on us. And I think most of us are aware of that pressure. I think some of us aren't, but it affects everyone. And then there's the solar flares we had earlier this week, or the end of last week. We had some major solar flares. Everything impacts us, and so it's just good to create opportunities for us to be able to let go and release and recharge ourselves.
The other day, I got invited to a retreat out of the city in the country, and I went out at night, like around 10 o'clock, and just sat in the grass, and I was hearing the frogs, and they were going, oh, this really low guttural sound, and then the crickets were like, like on a regular pattern. And I was like, oh my God, that feels so good to my nervous system. Like I was really in tune with the frequency of the animals in nature and how it's so different. I live in the 4th largest city in the United States. And what I hear when I go on my patio are gunshots and sirens. And so those are the types of things that my nervous system is activated by at night, not crickets and frogs. So there's just so much out there that our bodies are used to hearing, that can help, even with nature, right? Like bird sounds, for instance, have been known to calm our nervous system because birds don't chirp when there's predators. And so we figured out that when birds are singing, everybody's safe,
And for us, some weeks we're in 2 or 3 cities in that week. We're at campgrounds or RV parks all over the place. We live in a truck camper for 11 months of the year, 11 plus months of the year. We have a small dog. Her name is Bliss. She's a 14-pound golden doodle petite, and sometimes she'll get me up in the middle of the night. And here we are in Lawrence, Kansas. It's a KOA campground. She got me up the other night, 2 nights in a row at 3:33 in the morning, which I found fascinating. We went outside, and immediately she started barking. I shone my flashlight over in the field and saw two sets of eyes. I'm sure they were coyotes, the way they moved and everything. And it's just to be outside of the city, to give yourself that reset, to look up at the sky and see the moon and the stars, and to take a deep breath, and then also, we can get grounded and reset ourselves by simply walking outside our front door or back door, taking off our shoes and socks, letting our feet sink into whatever it is, including the concrete slab. And again, focusing our attention on our intention to get grounded. And I've kind of done a little bit of informal testing on myself, 45 seconds. That's all it takes. If you're ready and willing and you're that set on what you're manifesting, 45 seconds. And it's just nice to give yourself those experiences. It sounded great when you talked about sitting in the grass and listening to all that.
To the frogs. I know, I loved it because they were so low. The resonance of it was just so deep. It wasn't a high pitch or anything. It was just so relaxing. And I was just really in tune with how they were nourishing my nervous system. And I was just so grateful for the frogs. And I'm like, I'm having a date with the frogs tomorrow night as well before we leave this campground.
I really feel like I've had experiences where I was sure that there were codes in those sounds that were feeding me what I needed. And I mean, call it crazy or whatever. I think it's just me being in deep gratitude for nature, and then realizing that there's something in it. There's something for us to get, even just by sitting there and just listening and taking it all in. Something shifts in us.
Yeah. And something shifts when you go to one of you're up there performing, providing the service to all of us who are attendees, but I'm sure you get this frequencies when you're doing it too. Like, do you want to talk about that? Like what your experience is from all these events that you do in a year?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like church. It's like going and reconnecting with what it's all about. And I even though this is what my life is, and over 100 events or 100 events this year, I get out of whack sometimes. I mean, reality gets a little bit whatever. We'll be pulling, I'm driving a truck camper, pulling a 19-foot cargo trailer through Houston. That's stressful, and everything. And so it's nice for me. It's like one of the greatest gifts to be able to drop in, just to drop into a peaceful, loving, energetic. And our newest hashtag is hashtag here to love you. And so we go in there and we just completely expand our hearts. And I mean, there's nothing like it. I'll share with you something. 2 weeks ago, we canceled where our tour was headed to Florida. It's always Florida and Texas have always been our biggest states.
Yeah, so with the hurricane, Florida, right?
I got into it. It hit. Don't go to Florida. And it was I didn't listen. I the people in my circle that I trust, that I have a dear friend who's an amazing psychic. I called Dr. Sandra Rose Michael. I called other close friends and people that I trust their opinion, and everybody said, don't go. And so we canceled 37 events. They weren't all in Florida, but once we canceled Florida, the logistics of the other states didn't make any sense. So we canceled the rest of the year of events. And I will share with you, for me to talk about this when everyone went through what they went through in Florida and North Carolina, I don't get me wrong, my heart goes out to everyone. This is my personal experience of what happened to me just with this cancellation. Was my heart dropped. I don't want to say I really got depressed, but my energy level tanked. And Stephanie and I were along the lines of we're just not going to tour for the rest of the year. And well, after a day and a half, Stephanie came to me and she said, I figured out a way that we can go back and tour some places. And one of my goals in 2010, I did 95 events. And so this being my first full year back from the back-to-back strokes and all the stuff that's happened in the world, I said, I just want to do more than 95 events. When we canceled all those events, we were at 81. And Stephanie said, I've come up with a way that we can do 15 or 16 more events. And so now we're going to be here a little bit longer. We leave this weekend. We go to outside of Wichita. We have 4 events. Then Omaha, 2 events. And then we head to Ohio and Chicago. And we just added some Wisconsin dates yesterday and today. And we're going to end up doing 96 or 97 events by the end of the year. And so it really does it, as much as we are there to be in service and to give and to provide this, it's when you're doing that, you can't help but have it affect you also. I mean, everything creates, we're big on talking about how everything creates an energetic loop. And for us, that's a big deal. And we feel like we don't do anything that isn't also feeding us on some level. And that's something for people to look at in their own lives. Whatever it is you're doing, if you are doing something that you feel is negative to someone else, it's creating that energy back within you. Or if you're stuck in an addiction or something like that, it's everything comes full circle. And so I'm super thrilled that my wife stepped up and said, let's figure out how to do this. And I immediately was able to flip that energy. I probably wouldn't have been stuck in that energetic for more than a few days, but it made all the difference. And when you know what you're here to do, when you've identified the why of your existence, you just want to do it. You just want to be in that energetic. That's why the COVID reset was so challenging for me, because it pulled everything out from under us, and it was like, whoa, wait a sec. We're Dr. Dream and Stephanie in service to humanity. And well, now we have no events, and what's the new normal, and what's going to happen. And then we had to go through this process of, well, who are we? Who are we then if we don't have that? And then having the strokes, and Dr. Sandra said to me when she invited me to Las Vegas, she said, we need to get you back out there doing what you do. And I knew she meant touring, but at the time I thought, do what I do. I don't know if I'll ever tour again. I am barely able to use a walker. I'd like to walk again. That would be nice. But it's when you bounce back from something like that has the potential to be devastating in a person's life, you realize that it's tied to your purpose and your mission here. And we have possible exit points set up throughout our life, I feel like. And I think this was one for me, and my soul and the rest of me said, no, this is not the one. We're going to pass on this one. We've got more to do here. And I tell people, you wake up in the morning, you're breathing. You exist in this reality. You have a role to play. There's 7 billion plus people on this planet. We're all a puzzle piece. And
Right.
that you do a jigsaw puzzle and you leave out a couple pieces. Yeah, you can still tell what it is, but it feels like something's missing. We all need to step up to whatever our role is here. And when we do that, we're happy. We can spread that joy and that love. And my life has been all about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's a perfect segue for me to remind everyone that the Oneness Junkie podcast was created to highlight individuals and or organizations who are using their time and their talents to make the world a better place. And we all have to survive, right? And so I want to talk. That's why I'm having you on the podcast. I self fund this podcast. Nobody's giving me dollars, for this podcast. It's my mission with my background in marketing and sales. I wanted to highlight individuals like you who are bringing healing in alternative ways, even in natural ways, to awareness. So this is how I am doing that. But I also want to let everyone know what you just told me before we started recording, which is you're creating a podcast, right?
Yes, I started 2 weeks ago. It's called the It's All Good Show, and it's we're addressing some very difficult topics. Last week was Dane Wigington from geoengineeringwatch.org. Um, it was he's created a documentary called The Dimming, which everybody should watch. The information is challenging to say the least because we're truly in a dire situation. But the point of my podcast is to be able to present like some very heavy truths like that and then bring it around to what I call at the last 10 minutes or so solutions from the soul. and like I want people to know these truths, but I don't want to leave them with this heavy energy or with their I want people to know that there's something we can do.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal. So this next week we have Dr. Sandra Rose Michael as our guest, and it'll be fascinating because she's such an incredible woman with what she's done with the EE system, and then everything else that she's about. But all my guests know that, in that final portion of the show, we need to bring it back to empowering people because some of the information, some of these truths can feel like they're disempowering us.
Yeah. Or that we don't have any way to deal with it, right? We're victims of it and we can't do anything, but that's not true.
That is not true. And, we're incredibly powerful and we just need to own up to that, step up to it. And there's so much that we can do, but some things about saving the planet, we need to step up to very quickly to really to have the opportunity to make those changes.
So tell us where they can find you. Are you on all the main, Apple and Amazon podcast and YouTube?
No, because of the topics and censorship out there. We're on YouTube, but also Rumble, BitChute, and Unite.live. And so everything is linked off of itsallgood.com, ITSALLGOOD.com. There's a page there on podcasts, and you can join our email list. We drop a new podcast every Wednesday, but this Wednesday, Dr. Sandra Rose Michael, that'll be episode number 3. So we're just in the beginning stages of everything, and definitely would love and appreciate everyone's support to follow us and get the word out and to share the different podcasts and everything.
And what also helps individuals, is, people who have podcasts, is leaving a review. If you can leave a review or give some comments on down below on a YouTube video, the more people comment, the more YouTube will share it with people of like mind who have looked at similar videos, and then they'll match them up and say, hey, you might be interested in the It's All Good podcast. So just share, comment, like the videos to help individuals, right?
Yeah, it makes a difference. And again, like you, we're not sponsored by anybody. There's no, it's all our time and expense, and it's just to get the word out and to help change the world. And like energy attracts like energy. That's why you and I are sitting here right now.
I know, and I finally called you after 5 or 6 months had gone by. So I found your card in my wallet one day, and I was like, "There it is! I can just pick up the phone now and call."
It was
So
perfect. Your timing
yes,
is great.
it all worked out, didn't it? So in wrapping up, is there anything we've told everyone where to find your podcast? They know about your website. I'm sure at the website there's like a list of events that you're doing, maybe.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And if somebody wants to reach out to host you as an event, they can go to the website and see if there's an opportunity to book you for an event, right?
Yes.
And see if it fits in the calendar, because it obviously has to work when you're in that area of town, right? What else do we want to say before we wrap it up? Is there anything you want to tell anybody that I didn't even ask you about that's on your mind?
Well, one other thing is we have a program. It's called 21 Days to Change, the Conscious Creation Program. It's described as a comfortable structure to assist you in creating, attracting, and manifesting the life of your dreams. We've given it away for probably close to a decade and a half. It's available on the website, itsallgood.com. You can download it. If you're really, really committed and dedicated to it, I'll do phone calls with you at no charge to support your process. Just reach out to me and say you heard the offer. We're really here to be in service to people, and that's what it's all about. And so, I think that's.
But if somebody wanted to donate to you, do you have a way for people to donate to you?
You know what? I do one-on-one calls with people that I don't charge for. I do the 21-day program. People then want to donate, and we don't accept donations. We tell them to look in their community and find the organization that is not, like where $1 is actually $1 in is going as $1 out, as opposed to 60 cents to the salaries of the people that run the organization. Support the local food bank. Pay it forward somehow.
You can support my podcast. Like, whoever's listening out there, if you want to support something, I'll take donations. I have a way to take donations.
There you go. We've tapped into like the incredible abundance of the universe that's available to everybody, and it's just the way it's always been for us. And we work hard. We do 100 events this year. That's a lot, and we're very well taken care of, and we support a lot of people and GoFundMe campaines and things like that, and we want other people to do that same thing. So one day, I keep thinking one day we'll start a nonprofit, the It's All Good Foundation or something, and take donations where we can then just do even bigger things out there. But for now, just pay it forward.
I love that. That's true service to others. I love that. So, okay, well, anything you want to say before we say goodbye? It's been such a pleasure having you on the podcast. I love my visual here with the EES systems. And boy, I would love to have your doctor friend come talk to us about the EES. So if you want to invite her, feel free to let her know she's welcome.
Oh, absolutely. I will let her know. And, I just want to close out my portion here by saying that I love you all. If you're watching this, know that I love you. And that's what is going to change the world. And it's one person at a time. And that's it. And if you have the opportunity to join us on the Tour of Love or the It's All Good show, please do.
I love it. And we say at the Oneness Junkie podcast, when you heal yourself, you heal the world, and the change starts with you and me. So I totally agree with that. We do love you all. We are doing this work because we love you and the planet, and just recognizing our connection in all things oneness. And we just wish you the best. So thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you. I really appreciated this opportunity.
Thank you. Talk to you soon. We've reached the end of this episode. If you'd like to continue with this inspirational journey, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out. If you are a self-proclaimed oneness junkie, get yourself a t-shirt and spread the message of oneness in your community. And finally, if you have a story to share or know someone that should be a guest on this podcast, contact us at onenessjunkie.com. See you next time. And remember, when we heal ourselves, we heal the world. Compassion starts with you and me.